A very good morning. We are live on Saturday, the 16th of May, and welcome to Avoiding the IRS Algorithm Freezes, the Clifford Protocol Signature Credit Recoupment webinar. First, let me introduce myself. If this is your first time attending one of our presentations, my name is Simone and I'm head of the Advocates Network. Now, I see we have a little bit of an international flair going on here, because not only do we have wonderful members from the UK and also Ireland, but we have New Zealand, Thailand, Australia, South Africa, USA, Venezuela, Canada, and Ireland. And if I happen to miss any other countries, apologies. I'm just looking at the chat, because there's a lot of you on here, all right? So lots of information is going to be shared today. So make sure you've got a pen and paper handy, make lots of notes. This is actually one of the most requested subject to discuss about, because I know this has been discussed in previous webinars as well. So just to politely remind you, this webinar is recorded as well. So if you want to go back, revisit this webinar, it will be available on the platform early next week. There will be handouts that will complement this particular webinar as well. So that will be on the platform as well. And of course, if we don't get through all your questions, don't worry, because after today's webinar, you will receive an email from our marketing department with a link. And all you need to do is click on that link and submit your questions as well, and of course along with your feedback. So I'm sure you will enjoy today's webinar. We always get positive feedback from all our presentations. But right, let's go. Let me introduce you to our speaker. He is the founder and the president of the Republic of Old Souls, is Ian Clifford. Good morning. How are you doing?
Well, good day, because I think we've got people on, as you said, from all different countries. So whatever time it is for you, welcome and thank you for coming. Before we get into the meat and bones of this, as I have done on the last few webinars, if you're new to our webinars and you don't really know much about me or what we do, and you may or may not have been looking on the internet, you will no doubt find a huge amount of propaganda about me. So I want to clear it up right up front. The last 20 years of my life has been quite extraordinary. There are 2 documentaries made about it. I basically used to be very high up in the financial services world in the UK. I had a unprecedented and very unique joint venture with one of the biggest banks in the UK, which is now called Lloyds Bank, was Bank of Scotland when I signed up the joint venture in and around the year 2000. It's a very long story. I'll cut it really short. Basically, there was a lot of bank fraud going on. I had a 9-year joint venture. My joint venture was a £1 billion joint venture with what became Lloyds Bank, originally Bank of Scotland. They made my firm and me a patsy for a fraud. I blew the whistle on the banks, the top 6 banks in the UK, all the way from the Bank of England down to the Treasury, down to what was the Financial Services Authority, down to the banks themselves, into the High Courts. 10 years worth of extraordinary events unfolded, or 10, 15 years of extraordinary events unfolded. And I was revealing a lot of what we're going to talk about today, about how the banks use our energy to create credit ex nihilo. I wasn't featuring that heavily at the beginning of this story, but I knew about it. And I also knew that the banks were defrauding their customers. The British establishment didn't like the fact that I was revealing their hidden secrets, their dirty linen. It's just to put it into context, it's £90 billion worth of bank fraud that's never been properly investigated. A lot of malfeasance in public office. Basically, they made me the scapegoat. Then, because I didn't go away and try to take them on in the courts, They've now, after 15, 16 years, tried to jail me twice. I'm in constructive exile in North Cyprus because of what I know. My case is in the UK Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal don't want to look at it. They're stalling all the time because they know that I'm right and they don't want to hand a judgment down in my favour. And basically, what they do is they try and destroy your reputation with using media proxies, and there's lots and lots of that going on. So if you are on the internet looking up about me, take what you read with a pinch of salt. A lot of it is fabricated, a lot of it is skewed, and it's biased. Those that come on my webinars, those that know, about me, those that work with me, those that read my research papers know that I'm not the guy that they're trying to portray on the internet. It's what they always do, is try and ruin your reputation. So I say this: if I was a complete nut job, literally, they wouldn't bother with all of their trying to jail me. They wouldn't bother trying to undermine my character, undermine my reputation. They would just let me carrying on being a nut job, and eventually I'd run out of steam, wouldn't I? But they know that I'm right over the target on everything I'm doing, and that is why they continue to try and silence me. So if that disturbs you, you better turn the video off now, because you're not you're not in the right mindset for what I'm going to be talking about today. But if it doesn't spook you, if you are interested in the truth, if you are interested in how the system really works, and if you want to completely and utterly change your game of Monopoly lawfully, with no comeback on you, because they're only coming after me because I'm the guy who's a bit too dangerous for them. But if you are looking to change your game of Monopoly, and you'll see what I mean as we go through this, then please do stay on the webinar. Anyway, this is what we're going to cover. I've tried again to make the complex simple. This is quite a complex subject, I have to say. One of our attendees of a webinar recently said, "Is this a candidate for the Nobel Prize?" I'll let you judge that. I have spent a lot of time putting all this together. It is deeply technical, which is how my mind works. So I'm going to try very hard today to keep this fairly simple, but I am going to justify with some technical references, because that's what I was trained to do when I was in financial services, designing all sorts of remedies and products and everything else, and designing financial plans for my clients, was to always justify everything that you're going to say. And that's what I've done here. I go a lot deeper in my research papers. And if you are on our Telegram channel, Winning at Monopoly, I've just this morning published another research paper, which is, why would the United States Treasury redirect billions of taxes to our members' grantor trusts? And I've broken it all down. Quite interesting paper. I finished it this morning. I put it up on the Telegram channel. I don't think it's a handout because I only completed it early this morning. But if you are on the Telegram channel and you are interested in the reasons why this works, then that paper is another paper that I would urge you to look at. But today, we're going to talk about how the IRS system really works and how they use their algorithms to eliminate frivolous tax recoupment filings, and how our system navigates through it, because there's a lot of technology being used by the United States Treasury, and if you don't know how they are evaluating the tax filings that they receive, you're probably going to fall foul of their system. It's a bit like being in a maze. If you were dropped in the maze in the middle of it by a helicopter and you had to find your way out, you've either got a guide, and that guide, by the way, is me, or you can try and get out the maze on your own. You might be in there a long time. It's a bit like the IRS's system. We've spent years developing our methodology, and we've had results. I'll come back to that a bit later. So we are your guide out of the maze, if you like my analogy. Let's move it on. It really has to begin with this for me, and that is that the game of Monopoly. It's an amazing game if you ever played it, because it's actually showing you is exactly how commerce works. And when it was introduced over 100 years ago, it was actually brought out to really show people what they were going to be doing, because it wasn't quite in place when it came out. The Monopoly board system that we're all playing wasn't quite perfected at that time, but they brought the game of Monopoly out to really show everybody who used it that it is what we're doing is playing a game. We're playing a commerce game, and the game of Monopoly is a very, very good description of it. Now, if you're going to play, you need to have there's two elements to how to play. There's the living man woman, and then there is the player piece. Now, if you look at what that actually means, the living man woman is brought into this world by your mum and dad. You're a baby, you grow up, you become an adult, and then you can start to play the game of Monopoly. But you can only play the game of Monopoly if you've got a piece that sits on the Monopoly board. And the Monopoly board is artificial. So you can't play an artificial game. You personally can't play it because you're of substance, you're living and breathing. So what you can do is you can drive the player piece around the board. So you are actually playing the game, but you're playing it through moving a player piece around the board. And that player piece has many names. It's called a citizen. It's called a person. It's called a straw man by many in the freedom and truth community. Basically, it is a decedent estate. It is an estate that is artificial, and it is decedent because it's based on the placenta. When your mum gave birth, the placenta is taken away normally by the hospital. They use that to register a decedent estate. That decedent estate later becomes the person, the citizen, the artificial construct. Now, the inconvenient truth is this, that the living man woman is the agent for the player piece, the citizen, the straw man. There's not a lot you can do about that. There are ways of minimizing the linkage, the joinder between the living man, woman, and the player piece, the citizen. But we'll come back to that. But this is foundation, right? This is foundation knowledge. A lot of people don't realize that there is the living men and women, and then there is the player piece, the citizen. A lot of people don't realize that what they're doing is playing an artificial game of commerce. A lot of people do not realize those things, and some people have sort of realized that there is a player piece and a player, but they haven't realized that they are not the player piece. They have been programmed all through their life, as I was. Whenever they were asked for their name, they would say the name on the birth certificate. Well, that birth certificate name is not the living man, woman. It is the player piece. It's quite fundamental. The player piece, by the way, is a debtor entity. It is registered to the state. It is a debtor entity, and crucially important for this presentation, the debtor entity known as the straw man, person, citizen, is a banker. It is an artificial entity that can operate in banking. And if you look at the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882, it will tell you in that act that a body of persons is a banker. Well, a person is a straw man, is a citizen. There's a very, very good reason why it's a banker, because it's going to do a lot of banking. But you, the living man, woman, you don't do the banking, but you are the agent for the banking entity, which is the straw man, citizen, the person, this artificial construct. Next slide, please. Now, the next piece of foundation knowledge is that the monopoly board itself is like a trust. It's a worldwide trust that actually is operating in bankruptcy. But we'll come back to that in a moment. So this whole game that we're all playing is basically, it's an artificial game. Everything on the game itself is artificial. You can't pick it up. You can't talk to it. If you think of it like this, all of these companies, all of these governments, all of the persons, the citizens, artificial constructs, all of them. You can't talk to them. You can't call them up on the phone. You can't take them out for dinner. They are artificial constructs. So we've got the living men and women who are not on the monopoly board, who are the players, if you like. And then you've got the player pieces on this artificial monopoly board. And the whole monopoly board itself is a trust. And the trust is operating in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We'll come back to that in a few slides' time. Now, because the entire monopoly board is operating in bankruptcy, there has to be a bankruptcy trustee. And the bankruptcy trustee is the United States Treasury. Now, in any bankruptcy, you've got creditors and debtors. We, the living men and women, are the creditors, and everything else on the monopoly board is a debtor entity. And the United States Treasury is there to serve the creditors, the living men and women. Now, the whole board is pretty much dominated by the United States dollar. The United States dollar is the reserve currency of the world. There's a very good reason why nearly every financial transaction is basically balanced back to the United States dollar. Arguably, it's why the United States operates in a hegemony with a lot of arrogance. Not only have they got the biggest military, but they control the money system. This artificial game of monopolies, mostly based on the dollar. It's the dominant currency. The whole money system operates via the dollar. So that's quite important, because there are always questions on our webinars about, can I do this in Australia? Can I do this in Canada? Can I do this in Switzerland? Can I do this in Germany? Can I do this in Iceland? Yes, you can do it in every single country, bar a couple. You can't easily do this if you're in North Korea. But I don't think you'd probably be watching this if you were. So I think they restrain people watching anything outside of North Korea. Next slide, please. Now, this is very, very fundamental as well. The 1933. This is when the whole game of Monopoly really started to take force and really came about at the same time as the bankruptcy of the United States as a corporate entity sitting on this artificial monopoly board. The days of substance-based money disappeared from 1933 onwards. We used to have a money system that was backed by physical gold. Prior to that, there were other assets it was backed by. The bankers decided that it would be a great idea if they introduced a new monetary system, and they started rolling that out in 1913 via the Federal Reserve Act. There were lots of opponents to it who all perished on the Titanic a couple of years before. So it left the bankers like JP Morgan and a load of others, very senior banking families in 1913, to introduce the Federal Reserve Act, which they did in a recess where there was hardly any politicians about to object to it. which is what they normally do when they want to bring something in that a lot of people don't like. They brought the Federal Reserve Act. Then there was the boom years of the 1920s. And then you had the Great Depression, which is one of the biggest collapses of financial markets in history. And that was the engineered problem that created the environment for them to bring in the bankruptcy of the United States. Without the United States operating in bankruptcy, this whole game of monopoly wouldn't work. So the whole monopoly board has to operate in bankruptcy. What is very, very surprising for a lot of people, because it's a huge deception, is that everything on the monopoly board is a negative. It's a debt. So if you look in your bank account, look in your investment account, look in your pension account, and you see positive numbers in there, like the balance in the account, those balances are negative. Everything on the monopoly board is bankrupt and in debt. The whole system is based on debt. They just forget to put the zero in front of the numbers when you're looking in your bank account. So that's interesting, yeah? When you get a bill, the bill you receive is a negative. They're sending you a debt. Yeah, and you cannot pay anything in this artificial game of monopoly. You can only discharge. So what happened in 1933, House Joint Resolution 192, is so pivotal to the why you can redirect taxes that belong back to you. And I'll explain that more as we go through. The whole board is bankrupt. It's a worldwide bankruptcy. It's not just the United States. In 1944, in the Bretton Woods Accord, all of the other major countries were also entered into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And then you've got 1973, when money was no longer had any connection to gold whatsoever. So from 1973 onwards, it's all been backed by one thing. And that one thing is human energy. It started in 1913. It went into 1933, 1944, 1973. And now we are in a system which is 100% backed by human energy. It's a modern slavery system. You can't pay anything because there is no money of substance. You can only discharge one debt with another one, all based and all backed by human energy. Next slide. Now, if you want to read about this, because I think it's an interesting subject, it certainly was for me when I first started reading about it about 15 years ago. As a money manager, as a guy who used to manage a lot of people's wealth, you would imagine that I would know where money came from. But I'm here to tell you I didn't know, because I never asked the question where this money comes from. And most of the so-called experts don't ask that question either. I wonder whether you've ever asked the question. Think about it. Have you ever asked yourself, where does the money come from? Because it's an interesting question. If you look at world debt, which there's different research institutes doing research on this, but if you believe the IMF, there's over $400 trillion of world debt. So the next question is, well, who's it owed to? And the answer is it's all owed back to the people, because it is based on energy, and the energy originates from the living men and women. So in order for the bankers to operate this bankrupt, trust-based monopoly game, they had to create a system where new money, in inverted commas, could be created every single time the bankers, remember, the person, the citizen, the straw man is a banker, wants to do a transaction on the monopoly board. So making a bank payment is issuing a banking transaction. It's actually issuing a security. Signing up for a mortgage is issuing a security that creates a mortgage. A credit card, a loan, it's all the same. And the only way they could make that work is to be able to create the currency out of what's called ex nihilo credit creation. The Bank of England writes about this in Money in the Modern Economy. The Federal Reserve writes about it in Modern Money Mechanics. Professor Richard Werner writes about it in numerous research papers. Ex nihilo credit creation. You see, everything on this monopoly board is artificial. It's unlimited amount of money that can be created. There should be no such thing as world poverty, because everything on this monopoly board is artificially created through a promise to pay in the future. The promise is backed by human energy, and that promise creates currency, and the banks are operating as fiduciaries, nominees, trustees on this, within this great big worldwide trust. The banks are operating as a trustee for you, the living man, woman, and the player piece, which is the straw man, the citizen, this banking entity, every time it engages in a banking transaction of some sort, that transaction creates new currency, which adds to world debt. And believe it or not, every single transaction that's ever been recorded digitally is recorded by the United States Treasury. Quite extraordinary. We'll come back to that. So the money supply, the so-called money, 97% of it is created when you make a bank payment, when you sign up for a mortgage, when you sign up for a loan, when you sign up for a credit card. That currency never existed before. What you're actually doing when you make bank payments, get a mortgage, get a loan, get a credit card, is depositing human energy onto the monopoly board. Doing it through a banking entity, which is the citizen, the person, which issues a promise to pay in the future, a security, and the banks are operating as trustees, fiduciaries, nominees for the energy. They are holding the energy in trust, your energy, my energy, Sims's energy, everybody else's energy. Their banks are holding your energy in trust, and they're using it for their own gain. Next slide. So how does this energy get transferred onto the monopoly board? Well, they had to have a mechanism for doing that. And the mechanism is called the signature. So it's not actually a quill pen and some ink. It doesn't have to be like that, or even a biro or anything. The signature can be digital. It's based on the intention. So when you make a bank payment, you're actually creating that new currency when you make the bank payment. It never existed before. It is not being transferred from your account to another person's account or another company's account. It's brand new, and it's all based on the fact that you intend to pay in the future. Promise to pay in the future. Look at a banknote, and it will say, I promise to pay the bearer, promising to pay in the future. And it's all triggered by a signature or an intention to pay in the future. And this signature basically is the mechanism which they use through consent to transfer your human energy onto this artificial monopoly board that then becomes a debt, because everything on the board is a debt. Next slide. Now, when you transfer your human energy onto the monopoly board through the signature that the banker, the person, the citizen is issuing this promise to pay in the future, your human energy goes on the monopoly board at zero value. Now, when we get a little bit further on into this presentation, we're going to be talking about original issue discount, but not the original issue discount that you'll find when you search the internet. Because if you go on the internet and you say, what is original issue discount? It's going to come back, or if you go on an AI system, any of them, it's going to tell you that original issue discount is about the a mechanism for calculating the value of securities. And if you are trading in securities and you've overpaid federal taxes, that's United States federal taxes, you can recoup overpayment of taxes under the original issue discount system. Well, the internet and the AI systems aren't wrong, but they just don't tell you about the human energy and the original issue discount because they don't want you to know. So when you put your human energy onto the monopoly board, the banks value it very, very highly. They have a future value for it, which is very high. And that has a maturity date, like a mortgage, 25 years or 30 years. Bank payments get a term of years. The bankers use your human energy, that's called hypothecation, and they make huge amounts of profit. Even though that is still a debt, it's still very usable on this artificial monopoly board. But the takeaway from this slide is that your energy goes on the board at 0, but it has a high future negative value. The difference between 0 and this very high future value is the original issue discount. So for example, if you have $1 million mortgage that you created by depositing your human energy to create $1 million mortgage, the value of that human energy is $1 million on the monopoly board, negative. And if you file 1099 OID and you know what you're doing, and you know that you can't do that as a taxpayer, you can only do it via a nominee structure, which we'll come back to later. The value of your recoupment is the face value of that security, that mortgage, $1 million. But you're not going to be recouping the mortgage. You're going to be recouping the taxes that the investment banks are paying for renting your human energy. We'll come back to that later. And the calculation of the taxes that I'm going to show you how you redirect them and how you avoid the IRS's algorithmic blocks is based on the original issue discount calculation. Next slide. Now I've put I don't know how many I've done now, maybe 15 research papers describing all different aspects of this. I call it the Clifford protocol because it is a step-by-step protocol of how to recoup the taxes, redirect the taxes that actually belong to you as a living man, woman, that the investment banks are paying the United States Treasury for the use of your human energy. In a nutshell, that is the Clifford protocol. It's a step-by-step process of how to recoup taxes that belong to you as a living man, woman, that the banks are currently paying to the United States Treasury. Does it work? Yep, we had 600 million confirmed in 2025. We'll talk about why our members didn't receive that a bit later on. But it was all confirmed. It all went through all the algorithmic systems at the IRS and the United States Treasury, ticking all the boxes, which is why we've got a video on our ROS media platform that talks about the proof. It actually shows the proof. Some of the IRS proof is for recoupments or redirection of taxes of $25 million. I think it's about the highest one in that video. It's Angela Clarkson, who is the head of our technology department, because she's been involved in a lot of the build out of this process. She's actually being interviewed by Andy Benson, showing the proof. You can find it on the ROS media platform. Next slide, please. So it's a bit more complicated than this, but the 5 main steps are: the first step is our system finds your signature. Whenever you signed bank transactions, whether they're bank payments, mortgages, loans, credit cards, based upon a fairly minimal amount of information that you give to us, our system will find your signature, that creation, those deposits that you made, whenever they were. All we need to know is the name of the bank that you were operating through, with the bank account name, sorry, the bank provider name, the mortgage provider name, the credit card, the loan provider names, and roughly when you had the accounts. That's pretty much all we need to know. And we have a calculator that helps you work out how much you may have issued. What is the value of your deposits that you may have issued in different years from the age of 18? Because we're talking about the recoupment of taxes, which is signature credit recoupment, from the age of 18. Every bank account, every mortgage, every loan, every credit card, the face value of these things. It's quite substantial for some people. So we've got to track it. The next thing is we've got to value it. So we have to calculate its value on the Monopoly board from a tax point of view, which is the OID part. We then need to find which bank is actually using your human energy. And it's invariably not the bank that you operated the transactions with. It is an investment bank, generally speaking, in New York. So the banks that you operate with, that I operate with, they don't actually pay taxes to the United States Treasury. It is the investment banks who pay the taxes, because your human energy is traded as tradable securities by the investment banks in New York, and they pay taxes to the United States Treasury. They're basically intermediaries. They are middlemen. They are, in the IRS publication 1212, they're known as nominees. And a nominee is a fiduciary, a trustee for you, for your energy. They're holding your energy as your trustee. And they're using it for their own gain. And because they make a gain on it, they have to pay tax to the bankruptcy trustee, which is the United States Treasury, for the use of your energy. Those taxes belong back to you. Now, how do you get them back is one of the reasons why I think one of our members put forward, is this a candidate for the Nobel Prize? Because you cannot recoup taxes as a debtor. A lot of people have tried doing this. A lot of people have filed 1099 OID as a taxpayer. That's the SSN holder, or the ITIN holder. The taxpayer is the straw man, the citizen, the person. That entity is not permitted to recoup taxes. The taxes can only be recouped and redirected to another nominee on the Monopoly board. And that other nominee on the Monopoly board in the Clifford Protocol is an international grantor trust, or a 98 series. It doesn't have to be 98 series, but it does have to be an international grantor trust. Without that part of the design, it would not work. Next slide. Now, surprisingly, we're using AI. It may not be surprising, but AI is actually amazing at finding millions and millions of bits of data and putting them together to make sense out of what we're doing here. Imagine that the whole world of all those transactions going back many, many years, all of those transactions leave a digital footprint. AI can find that digital footprint, and it can triangulate, and it can join the dots. So when you make a bank payment 30 years ago, our algorithmic system will know which investment bank is paying taxes on that transaction. It's quite extraordinary. We've developed it, and we have been able to use it in the very, very similar way to how the United States Treasury uses their AI systems to track everything. So a bit of a clue, without the AI systems, it's very, very difficult. We can do it. We were doing it manually. It's a very big job. So the AI system tracks the taxes that is being paid on your human energy, and we know which bank is paying them, and we know how much the banks are paying, and we know whether they're paying the correct amount or not. And if they're not, we can get the 98 series International Grantor Trust to actually operate as the taxpayer, as the bank, and command the United States Treasury to move the correct amount of taxes onto something called the 945 ledger. That's a tax ledger that the investment banks operate. They invariably pay about 1% of the taxes they should pay. They put all of the taxes that they are paying on other tax modules, and they leave the 945 tax module underfunded. So we're actually in a position to move the taxes from the other tax modules, like the 1120, onto the 945 ledger. Why? Because the grantor trust is a nominee. It is a creditor, and it can operate as if it were the investment bank taxpayer. It has that power, and it can command the United States Treasury to move the taxes onto the right ledger, which is the 945 ledger. The paper I've published this morning goes into that in a lot more detail. Next slide. Now, the problem is that if you create an international grantor trust, or even if you didn't do that and you just filed as a taxpayer using the Social Security number, the strawman tax reference number, the IRS would kick your filing out, because only nominees, creditors, can file for 1099 OID tax redirection. But let's suppose that you knew what you were doing and you created an international grantor trust and you knew how to file for the tax redirection, you did all that, and you wondered why you never got anything. The reason would probably be that the IRS algorithm 810 would stop the tax redirection. And one of the reasons why, there are many, but one of the reasons why is that there isn't a perfect match between the tax recoupment filing, the 1099 OID redirection, and the amount of taxes that the taxpayer, which is the investment bank, is actually funded on their 945 tax module. So if you're trying to recoup, along with lots of other people, an amount which is incompatible with the amount of taxes paid on the 945 module, it's not going to work. And the 810 algorithm is going to cut in, and it's going to stop all the recoupments, all the tax redirections for that particular investment bank. So you might be one of hundreds that are also filing for recoupment, because they're all members of ours. And if we don't know that there is enough credited, it's actually a debt on the 945 tax module, we have to know that there's enough taxes on that module. If there is not enough, all of the recoupments under that investment bank will be gated by the 810 algorithm. Now, you only get to find this out when you do deep research on how the IRS system works. So we don't do that. We make sure that there are enough taxes on the 945 module before we even file the 1099 OIDs for all of our members. Next slide. And if you really want to get really deep into it, the amount of taxes which the investment bank should be paying is probably 100 times more than they are actually paying. And the reason why they don't pay the actual amount that they should be paying on their 945 module is because hardly anybody recoups the taxes that belong to them, because they don't know how to do it. So the banks, very top of the banks, because 99.9% of the bankers don't even know how this system works, but a very, very tiny percentage do. They don't fund the 945 modules with enough to cover the whole liability, because they know that hardly anybody is going to be recouping. I would say that there's just a handful of people in the world who probably really know how to do this. And it's the super elites who know how to do this. So the investment banks only put enough taxes on the 945 modules. There are millions on there, but it's nowhere near the amount of taxes that the investment banks are paying across their entire tax base. It's nowhere near it, because the banks know that recoupment isn't likely to happen. So they pay taxes on their other modules, even though they are due to pay them on the 945. Now, you might be thinking that what we're doing is going to increase the taxes paid by the investment banks. It doesn't increase it at all. We redirect the taxes that they've already paid on other tax modules to the 945 tax module. The banks don't pay any more tax, and the United States Treasury doesn't lose anything. Back to that later. Next slide. And this is the revenue procedure 2002-20026. This is actually in the Uniform Commercial Code. And this is a massive clue, right? Because in the Uniform Commercial Code, it actually confirms that the tax redirection is the right of the nominee. That's the international grantor trust. So, for example, if Goldman Sachs has paid $1 billion in tax, they actually pay a lot more than that, but if they paid $1 billion in tax, they paid $100,000 on their 945 module, and $1 billion overall, 990,000 on their other tax modules. Under Revenue Procedure 2002-2026, the fiduciary, which is the officer of the 98 series grantor trust that is doing the 1099 OID filing, can command the IRS to move all of that 1 billion onto the 945 tax module. Why? Because they step into the shoes of the taxpayer, which in this example is Goldman Sachs, as an officer with absolute right to do it under Revenue Procedure 2002-2026. So ask yourself the question, if you're in any doubt as to whether this is lawful and viable, why would they put that code in the Uniform Commercial Code that enables the cross-modular transfer of taxes, where the nominee, which is filing the 1099 OID, has the right in law to command the shift, the move, the redirection of the taxes onto the 945 ledger, and then from the 945 ledger out to the grantor trust that filed the 1099 OID. Why on earth would they put that in the legislation, the Uniform Commercial Code? If they didn't want to make it lawful, they would just remove that from the code. But it's always been there. Next slide. In 2024, when I was trying to find the best way to do this, we had some earlier attempts which were difficult because some of the information that I now know wasn't known to me back then. I had a major breakthrough in terms of the International Grantor Trust doing the tax filings. Prior to 2024, we were doing tax filings from domestic trusts in the United States. Well, those domestic trusts are taxpayers. And although it probably still would have worked, there was a risk that the recoupments could have been clawed back. So I came up with the design of using an international grantor trust, because it can operate as a nominee. As a nominee for the living man woman with absolute creditor rights. That was a game-changing moment for me in my research, and it's what we've been doing since. And it's, in my opinion, the only way that you're going to make tax redirection, signature credit recoupment work is filing from an international grantor trust. By the way, it is a recognized entity within the United States Treasury. It has its own reference number, its own EIN number, but it is also regarded as a foreign grantor trust. Very critical to know that if you are interested in the technical side. Next slide. Now, this is even more surprising. The IRS, the United States Treasury, have a 26-digit reference number for every single transaction on this artificial monopoly board. 26 digits. Just imagine how many trillions of transactions there are going on all the time, and all the historical ones as well. The IRS knows everything. So when people are talking about it's, fearful about track and trace of currency going forward, the CBDC and the digital tracking and tracing, it's already there, guys. It's been there for a long, long time. The IRS have this IRMF system, which tracks every transaction. They know it all, guys. And so does our algorithm, because our algorithm can track it all as well. And it is a smoking gun if you've got a mortgage, if you've got a loan or a credit card, and you know what the IRS's IRMF code for that mortgage, that loan, that credit card, then you can prove, if you wanted to, that you are the creditor, not the banks. That code, and I wrote a research paper on this about a week ago, the smoking gun of mortgages is the IRMF reference number that proves that the banks are mere nominees. They're not the creditors. They're not lending anything. That reference number, forensically researched, proves it and can win court cases against banks. Next slide. Now, the wages and tax transcripts, which is the basically it's the verification of the signature credit, the tax redirection. When you get one of those for your grantor trust, you know that the IRS algorithm is past it. It's gone all the way through all the checks and balances, and it's come through them all. And and we had hundreds of them in 2025. That's the 600 million. You then know that it's got through all of the IRS's checks and balances. All their algorithmic tests have been completed, and they are going to issue something called a wages and tax transcript. As I say, we had hundreds of them last year, adding up to 600 million. You can see the proof by watching the short video, Angela Clarkson, Andy Benson on ROS Media channel. The next step in the process is what's called TREAS, TREAS 310. So these are all IRS references and codes. That is the distribution of the tax redirection to the grantor trust that filed the 1099 OID. Again, in the research paper I published on Telegram this morning, I explain all of that and how that all works within that research paper, which is, basically why would the Treasury redirect billions of taxes? It's all explained in the paper, not only why they would do it, but how it all works, if you're interested in the how. Next slide. Now, if you are one of those who received a wages and tax transcript in 2025, your grantor trusted, and it was all undermined by the pirates, which I've spoken about at length and done interviews on this. I'm not going to go all through it here. I've endlessly done interviews about what happened, why they did it, The fact that the pirates, of which there's nearly 40 of them, are under federal investigation, probably will end up in jail. The likes of Lisa Griffin, the likes of Amy Sanger, and a number of others. It's all in my interviews, it's all in my memos, it's all in my previous webinars. I was asked why they did it. There's complex reasons why they undermined it all, but basically it's because they were trying to steal money. And I'm just going to leave it at that. You can watch my interview and my other webinars if you want to know all the detail or read the documents I've written about it. The point is that the system, the Clicker protocol works, and it was proven to work by 600 million of wages and tax transcripts. It was further proven to work by prior checks that had been issued in 2024. And it was also proven to work through Lisa Griffin, who used to be the head of our tax department before she went rogue, because she learned everything from me, enabling her to recoup her own taxes, which she received in 2025, just before the pirates undermined all of our members' recoupments. So if you are one of those that had a wages and tax transcript, and you know that we tried to, and if you're on this webinar asking about when are you going to get your recoupments and you don't know about the pirate faction, then I don't know where you've been, because I've spoken about it in ad nauseum since September of 2025. If you haven't been involved in any of those webinars, haven't watched my interviews, don't know what happened and why it happened, it's all documented. And we had a great deal of trouble with that. It was one of the most egregious things that's ever happened in my 42 years of running ventures and organizations. So your recoupments were undermined by Amy Sanger and 39 other former members of our group. There are very good reasons why they did it. They're all probably going to end up in jail because of what they did, because they cost our membership probably a year's worth of delay on getting their recoupments. Like I say, it's all documented, all been interviewed, gone through it, A through Z forensically, what happened, why it happened, what they did, how they did it, why they did it, and what's going to happen to them. The good news is that the IRS froze all of those recoupments in 2025. And everybody involved was basically potentially in an investigation by the IRS. Now, we, through our electronic reporting officer, who's a license holder to file all the 1099 OIDs, actually blew the whistle on all the pirates. But for 4 months, the tax filing license from our ERO, our electronic reporting officer, was frozen by the IRS. That license was released in April of 2026, which means that the likelihood is that we can restore the 600 million of recoupments from 2025, which won't affect any additional recoupments that you might want to do from the age of 18. So if you're on this webinar and you don't know what happened, then that I've just given you a very, very short high-level overview. And I urge you to go and have a look at what actually happened on previous interviews. ROS Media Channel, there's a whole interview about it, all about what the pirates did, why they did it, how they did it. But the good news is that we are now working on the restoration of that 600 million, in addition to what you can also recoup from the age of 18, if you are interested in doing that. Next slide.
Before I go on to the next slide, Ian, I'm glad you've just brought that up, because the comments I've been seeing, you've literally gone tick, 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 tick. So everybody, as Ian has just mentioned, because I'm seeing comments on here, make sure you keep up to date on what's going on. We've got the Telegram groups. As I've just also mentioned in the comments, that there will be a follow-up email. I'm not going to be sending it because it's not going to be me. It's going to be marketing. And they will have all the links to the Telegram group, also about the ROS Media platform. Every piece of information. So I'm seeing all your comments, all the updates. Ian has just given a very quick summary. But if you want to know the information, go on Moss Media or go onto the Telegram group. All those recording of those webinars in full length are also on there as well. Okay, so I hope you all now understand all your questions, tick, 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 have now been answered. I just want to clear that in because I'm seeing all the questions that are going on and everybody critiquing each other. So let's, everyone, Ian's giving a summary, all right?
The entire subject is covered exhaustively on an interview between Andy Benson and me, which we did many months ago. It's been on the IRS Media channel, I don't know how many months now, 3-4 months, maybe more. And there's also updates on there as well. So there's a huge amount of misinformation going out from the pirates themselves, that people like David Ayerist and other people that were part of the pirate group. The truth is all in the video, all in the interview, and the verification of me telling the truth and never deviated from it is the fact that the IRS recently restored WK, who is the licensed tax preparer, his license. Why would they do that? Next slide.
So on that note, can I say to everybody, let's concentrate. Ian's answered all your questions. Let's concentrate on the next upcoming slides, because what will happen, the information is going to share, you may miss out. Okay, so Ian, over to you.
One of the biggest challenges, which many people don't think about, is how do you actually receive the recoupments? How do you receive millions of dollars without flagging the banks and getting them, the banks freezing your bank accounts and all of these types of things? I solved that through a fairly sophisticated structure. In the state of Wyoming, ecclesia trustees can operate as under what's called an attorney in fact model. And it can operate like an agent for each individual grantor trust. And it can open up individual accounts with specialist banking entities, which again, I've spoken about in my research paper I published this morning, that can receive the Trias 310 from the IRS without freezes, without blockages, because it's all 100% compliantly done. One of the issues that a lot of people don't realize is that if you are filing literally for thousands of grantor trusts, you're talking billions of dollars here. You try and bank that. It's not easy. When I see comments and questions, when am I going to get my recoupments? It's like this is something easy for us to do. It isn't. This project has a high level of difficulty. We've navigated all the way through it, if I dare to say, because of my background, because of my financial services knowledge. There's no way we could have ever pulled this off if I hadn't have spent my entire career working in financial services at the highest level. I would not have known how to have done any of these things. I have to say that when I keep getting questions about when am I going to get my recoupments, it's like we're not sitting on our hands. There's a huge amount going on in the background. The structuring that's gone into this is very immense project. Is the reason why you are going to have a completely different experience on the Monopoly board going forward. It doesn't come easy. Nothing like this comes easy, guys, I can assure you. The Wyoming structure, the MLITR research, is a recognized structure in Wyoming to operate as a trust entity or trustee entity for thousands of grantor trusts, that enables the banks to be able to receive the Trias 310 without the banks freezing the funds, without the banks sending the funds back to the IRS. That piece of the jigsaw has been one of the most difficult to put in place. Next slide. Okay, so if you are interested in spreading the word and you want to earn a discount on future protocols, so we're going to be launching many, many more protocols in the future. We're going to be launching protocols on energy, on food, on water, on transport, on infrastructure like communications. Many, many protocols will be introduced in the future to our members. And if you want to discount the enrollment donation to enroll in any of those protocols, or indeed into the Monopoly Game Changer, what we're pretty much talking about today, you can refer people and earn $100 for everyone you refer. That should be dollars. It's on the screen, it says pounds. It's a mistake. It should say dollars. There are two ways to earn a discount. You can use the Ian Clifford avatar, which I'm confident we'll launch next week. It was going to be this week, but there's a few issues with it which we had to iron out that have now been ironed out. So we should be able to launch it this week. So if you want to introduce people to my knowledge, because it's all in the avatar, and you want to introduce them to signature credit recoupment, and you want to earn a discount on protocols, you can use your link, which is your Ian Clifford avatar link, which has my entire database of knowledge in it in relation to this subject and all the other subjects I talk about on my webinars and my books and my technical papers. And you will earn $100 in reward points that you can set against future protocols if the person that you are introducing it to uses the avatar for 10 minutes or more. If you refer someone to one of my webinars, any webinar going forward, you will earn $100 in reward points. You can't earn $200 for the same person. They either use the avatar or come to the webinar or do both, but you can't earn $200. It's only $100 per referral. That, I believe, will enable, and we're already starting to see signs of people doing this, this will enable those that are really up against it, who have a network of contacts, to enroll in the Clifford protocol, to enroll in the Monopoly Game Change protocol, the Clifford protocol being the signature credit, with no donation cost at all, zero. I'll say that again. For those who are really hard up, who are really having a tough time on the Monopoly board, if you can make 5 referrals, you would be able to engage in the Monopoly Game Changer at a low level, but still a life-changing level, with no upfront donation. But you've got to make the referrals, right? Next slide. Let's imagine that you have just received your first recoupment in your international grant or trust. You're now, it's been transferred to your private treasury. This is the treasury you're going to be using for all of your commercial activities on this Monopoly board. There are, you have in your Monopoly Game Changer, you have something called the Asset Fortress Protocol. That is your private treasury. That's what you use on the Monopoly board in the system of commerce. It has a bank account. Let's imagine that you've got your recoupments in that treasury account today. Let's just imagine you had it today. What would that value be? What is the value of your bank payments from the age of 18? What is the value of your mortgages, loans, and credit cards? The face value. Take a guess. Is it $1 million? Is it 10 million? What is it? That is what you're leaving on the table right now. But it gets better than that, because once you've recouped that amount for the first time, you can then spend it from your private treasury by issuing new signature credit out onto the Monopoly board and then recoup it the following year. So whatever the value is that your bank payments, mortgages, loans, credit cards is, then multiply that out by every year going forward that you're recouping the same amount. If that isn't life-changing, I just don't know what is. Next slide.
Okay, on to the questions. So I know there was a lot of questions coming through. I think we've answered the majority of those anyway. But these are the questions that have also came through at registration as well. So what we're going to do, Ian, let's dive straight in there, shall we, with question number 1. How can the 1933 reorganisation and HJR 192 be lawfully cited to prove that modern commercial debts are prepared through the credit energy of the people?
Well, it's a really good question, because somebody said to me about 2 weeks ago, oh yeah, HJR 192 has been repealed because my algorithm, my AI system says it's been repealed. And it's like, yeah, it will say that, won't it? But go and look at it. It is a permanent reorganization. It is a permanent bankruptcy of the United States and every other corporate country that is involved with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which is the, if you look at the pyramid of the banking system, you've got the IMF, the Bank for International Settlements, all of the central banks, the clearing banks, the investment banks, they're all in the dollar system, and they're all in bankruptcy, all operating under HJR 192. How does it prove that the energy of the people is being used? Because it talks about the money of substance being withdrawn, i.e. gold, and it talks about discharge. It talks about everything is prepaid. So everything on this monopoly board is funded from the energy of the people in this modern slavery system. It doesn't describe it like this, of course it doesn't. But if you read between the lines, and if you interpret the words to what they really mean in HJR 192, it confirms that the substance-based system is being replaced by what's called a usufruct system. Usufruct meaning the creditors, the banks that were the instigators of the bankruptcy of the United States in 1933, those creditors, which is the top banking families, basically took out a mortgage over every single thing on the monopoly board, or the governments, or the properties, or the land, or the infrastructure, everything, or all the persons are all mortgaged to the original creditors, which is the banking families that made the United States bankrupt. It's called usufruct system. Look it up. It's interesting. I've written about it in my papers. It's all in HJR 192, but like all of these things, it doesn't spell it out what it actually means. You've got to be able to triangulate and read between the lines.
Lovely. Thank you for answering that question too. What are the specific forensic steps that the Gemini agentic AI takes to verify that a bank's Form 945 module has sufficient funds before a corrective 1099 OID is transmitted?
Well, it starts with knowing the bank that where the transaction originated from. So you've got to know the bank name, even if the name is changed or they've gone bust or they've been bought out. It doesn't matter. You just need to know the name of the bank that you had the account with, the bank account, the mortgage, the loan, or the credit card, and the year that you had the account. And you may have had that account for many, many years. You may have only had it for 1 year or however long. But you need to remember the name of the bank or banks that you've had that contractual relationship with. The next thing is you need to know the year. So you tell us that and the amount that you think you put through that account, the amount you think the mortgage was, the amount of bank payments you put through, and our system will then track the name of that bank. It will know by tracking all the data that's out there, the investment bank that would have purchased the securities which are based on your promises to pay. It will know that. The AI system will know what bank is linked to which investment bank. Your bank linked to an investment bank. It will then find and there are literally millions of these, the investment securities that all have a reference number. It's called a CUSIP number. It will find that by looking through tax returns and also SEC filings, because every security is filed. There are annual returns. It will look through all of these. It will triangulate. It will find. It will then track down the investment bank that is holding those securities. And it will then track down how much that investment bank is paid on their 945 tax module. I've actually published a research paper with the top 65 investment banks and how much they have paid in the last 3 years on their 945 tax modules. All of that research was done by the AI system. That would have taken months manually, I'm telling you. It's millions of bits of data that it's able to crunch. And it took about 35 minutes for it to find it all. The first time I did it. It's extraordinary, the power of AI.
Question number 3. Can the historical recoupment of signature credit since age 18, averaging, I've got here £3 million, be used to settle current bank mortgages and credit card lines immediately?
Well, you can't do it immediately, but you can recoup signature credit. So, for example, if you've got a mortgage right now and you don't want to go into the art of legal warfare to remove that mortgage charge and get rid of the mortgage, which is something else that we're doing with an algorithmic system, an AI and avatar system, which we'll be rolling out in the next few months. If you don't want to go to war with the mortgage provider and you just want to remove the mortgage, then you recoup the signature credit, your bank payments, your mortgages, your loans. That is almost certainly going to be way in excess of the value of the mortgage. You receive all that in your private treasury. You then contact the bank that you've got the mortgage with and say, I want to discharge the mortgage. And they will give you a redemption figure. You then make a transfer. I'm going to use that language because we all know what that means. You transfer from your private treasury the value of the mortgage, discharge it, get rid of it, take the charge away. Now the property has no mortgage against it. And guess what? That signature that you used to transfer the value of the mortgage from your private treasury then gets recouped in the next tax year. So you get rid of the mortgage. There's no argument, no war. You're paying it off in common language in exactly the same way as you can pay it off today if you had the funds available. The bank goes away, your property is unencumbered, and the best thing is you can recoup the discharge because that discharge event is signature credit. You created new credit from your private treasury, recoup it the following year. So that's how you can do it, but you have to wait for your first recoupment to come in.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Why is the 98 series International Grantor Trust considered an impenetrable firewall that bypasses the IRS fraud filters typically triggered by personal SSN filings?
It's a great question. The reason why is because it is in terms of the IRS, the foreign grantor trust, which they only issue manually. That you can't get them online, by the way. They make it difficult to get these. It's known to the IRS as a foreign alien. It is a foreign alien nominee, and that means it can qualify as a creditor. If you like, it's like a bank. Only the banks typically can operate as nominees for your energy, with the exception of a foreign grantor's trust. That meaning it is foreign to the United States. It sits internationally as its own entity, as a creditor entity. Critically important. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do this. It would not work without that piece of the jigsaw. So it's basically because it's a creditor.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Question 5, regarding the $600 million portfolio, what specific path is being taken to restore the wages and tax transcript that was stalled by the pirate fiction interference? Now, I know you have touched upon this already, but just in case people didn't hear what you said, could you maybe just go through that again, please?
Yeah. So the pirates, who had their own motivations, which I've described in my interview, they filed with the IRS what's called fraud identity reports. They claimed that their name as a trustee, there were 36 of them, they claimed that their name had been used without their authority as a trustee for your grantor trust, if you're on this webinar, and you received the wages and tax transcript. They did that because of Amy Sanger. And I've explained all the reasons why she created that and convinced them to do that in my interview. The IRS then froze all of the recoupments that were in progress, every single one of them. Over $2 billion of recoupments was frozen because of these bogus fraud identity reports that the former trustees filed. Now, that froze the whole thing, including the electronic reporting officer's license. You can't do this without a licensed, it's called a tax preparer. You can't just file tax returns unless you are professionally licensed to do it. We have that within our infrastructure. So the license was also suspended pending investigation, which is obviously it would be, yeah? That license is what I talked about, was restored in April. So from September of 25 until April of 26, until the license was restored. By the way, we had other licenses that we could use, but that was the principal primary license that was used to file all the returns in 2025. And what are we doing to restore the recoupments? Well, all of those trustees that had filed the bogusly filed fraud identity reports, they have all been replaced, or we tried to replace them with another trustee organization in 2025, and the IRS wouldn't do it because they were still investigating the identity fraud reports. In what we're doing right now is trying to, and I can't guarantee it's going to work, but I have high hopes it's going to work. I have a high expectation of it working. We are currently replacing the original trustees with a new trustee, MLITR Research, at the IRS right now. If that works, then the 600 million will go back into where we were in September last year, into the Trias 310 part of the process. And if you're one of those who's had a wages and tax transcript last year, you could reasonably expect to receive it within the next 3 months. If the IRS replaces the original trustee with MLITR Research as the trustee, we will know very shortly, because we've already filed quite a number of these to see what happens with the IRS reaction to replacement of trustees.
Lovely. And of course, when you receive that news, you'll update the members through definitely through the Telegram group. Yeah, you probably even do an interview with Andy Benson and go through it a little bit more meat onto the bone. Would I be right in saying, Ian?
We'll probably do a webinar. We'll probably do an interview. We'll definitely do Telegram update in the enrolled members Telegram channel. I can't guarantee what the IRS is going to do, but there's a high probability that they will restore them. If they don't, I have another move up my sleeve if they don't, to try and restore these. So I'll talk more about that if they don't replace the trustees.
And one thing we know about you, Ian, you don't just have a plan B. You always have a C, D, and E, because you always are so many steps ahead. And I think our members know that. But thank you for that update there as well. Question 6. How does the perfect match logic of algorithm 810 verify the validity of this signature credit claim against a nominee bank's omnibus tax ledger?
Well, the omnibus tax ledger is the 945 tax ledger, and the algorithm 810, what it's looking at is how much tax has the investment bank paid on that ledger. And then it's looking at the value of tax redirections that have come in, for which there's hardly any, because we're the only organization who knows how to do this, apart from, I reckon, a handful of the elites who know how to do this. So they basically match it up. And they also look into the IRMF system to make sure that the amount of credit that is, or the amount of tax redirection is based on reality. It's not just invented. You know, someone says, oh yeah, I had a bank account 20 years ago and I put $20 million through it, but it was all fiction and never was a bank account. Then the IRS is going to know that. And our algorithm will know it as well. So you can't put bogus claims through that have no foundation and substance to them. And that's what the 810 algorithm is looking out for. But the big numbers are what's being paid on the 945 ledger. It's called an omnibus account, because get this, the investment banks, when they pay taxes on that ledger, they don't call the ledger the name of their bank. They make up a name. So it's just to disguise it, because they don't want people to know that that tax ledger is actually their tax ledger. It's quite deceptive.
Lovely. Thank you for that. In the infinite loop cycle, what is the administrative process for recording a trust expenditure so it can be recouped in the following year's fiscal cycle?
So in your Asset Fortress protocol, you have a bank account that is the private treasury bank account. You use that just like you use any other bank account with a debit card. You spend it wherever the debit card is accepted, MasterCard, Visa card, all the usual stuff. And that expenditure from your private treasury is signature credit that can be recouped in the next year. So if you had $3 million in there and you spent it all, and then your bank account for your private treasury is issuing signature credit, which would then be recouped in the next year. And you just keep on doing that. That's how it works. It's just very, very easy, really. Whatever's left that account, whatever appears to have left the private treasury account, is then recouped in the following tax year.
Lovely. Thank you for that. I'll just continue on to the next slide then, Ian. And we have polls. So what we're going to do, I mean, I don't know if you want to read this out, Ian. I mean, I've got the polls already. Let's just go into that side. But I think the first question is, do you want a consultation to discover how to proceed with the Monopoly Game Changer protocol? So bear with me a moment. I'm just going to launch the poll right now. So let me start.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, whilst people have voted, the Monopoly Game Changer is the Envoy protocol, the Asset Fortress protocol, and the currency creation, which is the signature credit. It's a package, which you may already know that, but in case you didn't know that.
Okay, thank you for that. And if everybody can start voting, that would be great. So just click on to the button. You should be able to click on the button. Yep, perfect. So give it a bit more time. I know it takes a little bit of time of it coming through, so just bear with us at this moment in time. That would be great. Okay. Let's give it a few more moments. Just take a bit of time, doesn't it, Ian? All coming through.
Yeah, it seems to be delayed for some reason.
Yeah. You know, we had this last time, didn't we, when we did our webinar together. It was that was
Yeah.
the last few. That was major delay. I was going, is anyone there? There were, of course, but yeah. Okay. So what I think we do, because I'm mindful of time, and obviously it's people's Saturday, and you may have plans with friends or family. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the poll right there, and we have 79% who are already doing this, which is wonderful, and 21% said they would like more information, which is great. So I'm going to stop that. Let's hide that right now. And then the next poll is, if you are one of the members that received the IRS wages and tax transcript in 2025, that's the $600 million that Ian had been mentioning, do you want to upgrade and include signature credit recoupment from age 18? Yes, no, or you... Oh, go on, carry on.
Before you launch the poll,
yeah, of course.
The previous vote was people saying that they're already doing it, but I know that's not right, because we've only just recently launched the ability to recoup signature credit energy from the age of 18. So what people are voting for is they're doing what the last 3 years, they're doing 2022, 23, 24, maybe 25. That is not signature credit from the age of 18. We've only just launched it like a week ago. So we can't have had 78% of the audience saying that they're already doing signature credit recoupment from the age of 18, because we've only just launched it. So I think there's a misunderstanding on the the question. I think we should have made that a little bit clearer, and maybe it's misunderstood by the attendees of the webinar.
Okay. So I will now launch poll number 2. So let's let's have a look. Okay, so I'm launching it now. For those who received the IRS transcript in 2025, upgrade to include the recoupment from 18. So if you could start voting, that would be great.
Yeah, so to make this clear, if you are already in receipt of a wages and tax transcript, do you want to add to it signature credit from the age of 18, in addition to what you already got in your wages and tax transcript in 2025?
Yeah, which is on there. Okay. Just give it a bit more time while it's all coming through. Let's have a look. Missing your music, Ian.
Yeah, I didn't cue it up today, did I? So, yeah.
Maybe the audience might want to give us some suggested music for next time. How about that? I'm sure there were quite a few good suggestions, if I recall, last time when we had the music. So what I'm going to do, we'll start coming to a pause. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to stop the poll. And as you can see, it's very small on my screen, actually. 70% have said yes, that do want to upgrade and include signature credit recoupment from the age of 18. 8% have said no, and 23% have said they would like more information. So what I'm going to do is hide that right now. And poll number 3, do you want to go into that a little bit more in more detail, just so you can explain that, going to put more meat to the bone?
If you're very new to what we do here and you weren't involved prior, you're basically new to this opportunity. Do you want to recoup your signature credit, which could be millions of dollars, and then spend and recoup it every year going forward? Yes, no, or you need more information. It's probably on average about $3 million the first recoupment from what we've seen so far, based on those that have been coming on our consultations and using our calculator to work out how much could they be recouping, because it's not easy to work it out. So we have a calculator to help you to work that out.
Brilliant. Okay, so right, if everyone can start voting. Okay. Right, give it a bit more time, because it just takes a little bit of time, doesn't it? Just getting through the results here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to a close. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So I shall now stop there, stop the poll. And as you can see, 95% have said yes, and 5% said they would like more information. So thank you, everybody who has voted today. Let me just hide that. And I'll go on to the next slide, Ian.
So if you want to know how much you can recoup, the only way you're really going to know that is to book a consultation and go through our calculator, get the consultant that you're allocated to go through what is the value of your signature credit recoupment, because it's difficult to calculate it on your own. We have a methodology on our platform that will walk you through where you detail the banks, the amounts, and it adds it all up for you. It's the easiest way of figuring out what your value could be. But you can't do that. I think Ange, who runs our platform, I think she might have made the calculator available on the platform a couple of days ago. But even nevertheless, if you book the consultation, you'll be able to go through it with one of our consultants, and they'll be able to help you to evaluate just how much is it that you can get back on your first recoupment, and then cycle it every year.
Lovely. Thank you for that. And just so that you know, as I've mentioned, there is going to be a follow-up email from marketing, and it will include this link as well. So all you need to do is click on there and just follow the instructions, really. And funny enough, because there were some questions or on the chat and comments saying about the Telegram groups, but there are a number of Telegram groups on there. And if you haven't joined all of them yet, don't worry. As I mentioned earlier, the marketing will be sending an email out to you all, and it will include all the Telegram groups on there. And here's just an example of some. If you want to add any more to that, Ian?
Well, the Ross webinars, preview videos, webinars, library, that's where a lot of the information I've talked about, the interviews, about what happened and with the sabotage and the pirates, it's there. roswebinars.is is where you can find the webinars. That's prior webinars. And then you've got the ROS media platform, which I'm just scanning my eye down. Is it there?
The RS Media Protocol interviews. Yeah, there's a link there. Yeah.
Media, that's one. Yeah, it wasn't in blue. That's why. So that's where you get all the interviews. I break all the protocols down. There's lots of really good interviews on there that Andy and I have done. If you want more information, very, very soon the avatar will be available, and we'll be sending that out to our membership so that you can start using that. You'll be able to use it as a link as well. So for advocates, do you want to just say something about that, Sims? How they can use it to introduce to people?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking at the questions then. Sorry, could you repeat that question again? Sorry, because there's more questions all coming through. Sorry about the advocates. Sorry.
Yeah, so the easiest way to refer people, if you're an advocate, is to use the Ian Clifford avatar. You get a link, it's a web page, you send it, whoever it is you're referring, if they engage with it for more than a few minutes, it will then ask them their details. They give their details, their name, their email, all that good stuff. And then we know it's linked, that person has been introduced by you. So it couldn't be easier for you. All you got to do is send the link out to people that you know, you may want to introduce to what we're doing. If you want to, if you're not an advocate, or if you haven't already become an advocate, I should say, then, and you just want to do the webinar awards and the avatar awards, it's the same thing. You get the link, you send it out to whoever you want to send it to. If they engage with it for more than a few minutes, it will ask them to give their details. We know that they are then linked to you, and you get the webinar awards, you get the avatar awards points. Trying to make it really, really easy to spread the word. So talk about advocates, about how they can use it, Sims.
Yeah, oh, it's so simple. So one, just when you log on to your advocate account, so you remember you can do it through change account login on the left hand side. It takes you, straight there. Just put in your password, and right in front of you, it's so simple. There is your advocate link. There's a yellow button, just say copy. You just click on there, and that's it. You just go and share that link out. It's, as Ian said, we just want to keep it really, really simple. So all that information is there. It's if they went in and engage with Ian's avatar, if they then want to add their details because they want more information, they just click on that link, takes them straight there, and it is registered under your advocate platform. So once you're on the platform, you can see who your referrals are. Just make sure though you have signed your advocate agreement, because it will release other information as well. So you can see any of your referrals who've clicked on your link, who have proceeded as well in their signature credit. All that information's there. It's so easy as well. And also coming soon, it will need to be worked on, will be my twin, my avatar as well. So information, everything you need to, why become an advocate? Well, a lot of you keep saying to me, my friends and family need to know about this, start their journey. And it all starts with education. As Ian said, he's done so many webinars. He's got a wealth of knowledge. The research he's done is phenomenal. And some of the feedback, and I will be sharing some of the feedback in a moment, Ian, what I've seen is phenomenal. And I've just seen that through the comments there. It starts with your friends and family. And if you have a network as well, some of you may be part of a business group, property group, a freedom group, etc. It starts with the knowledge. And the first step is getting them onto the platform, review some of that information, but importantly, come on the webinars as well. You see that already a lot of information that has come, what's being shared with you guys today has been phenomenal. So, again, I've had some great comments in. Someone has actually said, which I want to share, this is my first attendance. Ian's depth of knowledge is immense, and most have no idea of the extreme efforts he must have made to do all this. I'm more than impressed. It's incredible. So that just gives you an idea of someone who's come on here for the very first time, probably through one of our advocates, and that's his experience from today's webinar. So thank you for that information, and already I'm seeing everybody is enjoying today. So I hope that makes sense there. Right, on to the next slide. Handouts. As I mentioned before, to complement today's presentation, handouts will be available on the platform. So this is being recorded. This will be uploaded next Monday / Tuesday, along with these handouts here. Ian, do you want to go into this a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I write lots of research papers. They're on Ecclesia Law. It's Ecclesia Law Institute. I think there's 80 research papers about different subjects. But I think the foundation one is want to know how the Commercial Monopoly Board works. I go into the bankruptcy. I go into usufruct. I go into how the whole system is being wired up. The genius of the system that controls everybody. who plays the game of Monopoly. The money system, I wish I'd known this 40 years ago. I would have had a very different experience. And, you know, signature credit, you know, is it a candidate for the Nobel Prize? I didn't say that. Somebody said that on a webinar. I thought that's interesting. We'll use that for our marketing. I break it all down. So, you know, I'm the sort of guy who wants to understand how things work. I've always been like that. I don't just take things on face value. I do want to look into them. I've looked into these subjects exhaustively, and I like to be able to justify what I say. I've yet to be challenged on any of my papers. I've got an open debate. It's open all the time for anyone who wants to come and debate me on a live webinar type, not webinar, a live video, which we'll do on IRS Media Platform. If anybody reads these papers and says, no, he's got that wrong, he doesn't understand what he's talking about, please come and debate me. I'd love it. I'd look forward to it immensely. It's never happened. Most people don't know how these things work because they've never looked into them. And the so-called professionals don't know either because they're not taught it when they do their qualifications. So, as I wasn't. So most of this information is being put together through deep research that I've done. And interestingly, and I'll just tell you a little story. I was introduced to ChatGPT about 6 months ago, and somebody in our technology team said, "Oh, you could use this for research, Ian." And I thought, yeah, that's going to be interesting. So I tried to use it, and I put some of my research into it about signature credit recoupment, and it came back and it said it was not permitted to tell me anything about this. And I went back to it and said, why are you not permitted to tell me anything about this? And it said, and it just kept basically repeating that it wasn't permitted to tell me about this information, right? The next day, my ChatGPT account was closed by ChatGPT. So that tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? That if it's not permitted to talk about it, they don't want you to know. But it knew that I knew what I was doing and what I was talking about on my research papers. And then I went into another AI system, and I thought what I would do is I'd break all the component parts down, which I did. So I stepped it out into all the component parts, and I got another AI system to verify all of the key bits of the technical references in the Clipper protocol to verify whether they were what I said they are, but individually. And I did that, stepped it all out, and then I asked it to join it all together. And of course, it had no choice. It had to join it all together, and it confirmed everything in my research papers to be true. And that's how I've managed to get AI to verify that what I'm talking about in these research papers is fact. It's truth.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Ian. Q&A. So I know there's some lots of questions that have come through. Thank you for that. But if you do have any additional questions, because obviously we are mindful of people's time today, as always, Ian does a follow-up webinar to this. So it's hosted by Andy, who's head of Ross Media, and all your questions that you have submitted. So to get those questions across so they can do the follow-up section, an email will be sent to you. So I'll repeat this again. An email will be sent to you through marketing, okay? And it will have a link. And on that link, please add your questions. And then what will happen, all those questions will be collated together, and then they will be sent over to Andy, and Andy will ask in those questions as well. And also with that link, feedback as well. I've seen the feedback that we've had from here, Ian. I've got here, as always, Ian smashed it once again. Much love to Ian and Sims and the rest of the family. Thank you for that. I know we've got a lot of our staff on here today, so they really will appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you, Ian and Simone. Yet another fantastic webinar. Have another member on here. It's their first time, and they said this has been extremely beneficial. So thank you. Another comment, watch weekly. I assume they mean watch the webinars on a weekly basis. And it blows my mind every time. Just incredible. I'm so happy to be part of this. Thank you, Ian. I have not found any other source at this level of expertise and this involvement to this degree. But we still like more feedback that come from you guys, because, we want to share this out. And so people know the importance of attending these live webinars, and of course share that feedback with your friends and family. You know where those webinar referral links are. They are on the platform ready for you to share. So that is really important there. Ian, is there anything you want to add to that? Are you happy with that?
Well, I'm looking forward to launching the avatar. We spent about a month putting it together. I thought we were going to launch it last week, but there was a couple of glitches with it, which we've had to iron out. So next week it should be available. And if you're interested in asking it questions, if you're interested in using it to refer people, I think it's a game changer for the growth of our organization, and to make it so easy for you to share with others what we're doing without having to explain it. Just say, hey, look at this. Just send them the link. They click on it. And it starts off talking about signature credit recoupment. That's the first thing it talks about, because I believe that is the solution to nearly every problem that's on the Monopoly board. Not every problem, but nearly every problem can be solved by signature credit recoupment.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Now, Ian, when you did ask me a question, and I said, sorry, could you repeat that again? Because the reason for that is there were quite a few members trying to get onto the link to book with the consultant. So I was trying to get the link at the same time when you asked me that question. So apologies there, Ian. But just to let you know, everyone, a few times now, I've added the link in the chat here. So if you want to book your session with the enrollment team, it's all there as well. But as I have also said, the marketing team will be sending out a follow-up email, and it will include that link. But I know some of you would like to book on straight away, so I've included that link in there as well. And I'd just say, well, first, Ian, thank you to you for taking the time out in delivering today's webinar. From the feedback I've seen already, everybody has really enjoyed it. So thank you to you as well, and all your wealth of knowledge that you've shared. But also thank you to our lovely members and advocates for joining today's webinar as well. Again, I hope you have also appreciated it. And as I just mentioned just a moment ago on the previous slide, we do appreciate your feedback. And of course, it helps us to improve and create better sessions for you as well. So, we'd really appreciate for you to take a minute to share your thoughts. When you receive the email from marketing, as I said, the link will be on there. So please click on that link to add your questions you'd like Andy to ask Ian following from today's webinar, and of course your feedback. And this is the email that it will be sent from. So keep an eye out from admin@republicofoldsouls.is. And even a short message, it makes a huge difference. And again, thank you for your continued support. And anything else you'd like to add, Ian?
No, I think next webinar I'm probably going to do because I think, well, depending on how many people read the research paper, if it's well read on the Telegram channel, then I'll do why the Treasury aren't going to block the billions of tax redirections. So I think that's a question that a lot of people probably will think about at some stage. So I'll answer that and break it all down on the next one.
Perfect. I think people may be interested in that as well. So Ian, thank you very much for your time. Everybody, thank you for your time as well. Have a wonderful weekend and see you on the next webinar. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye for now.